Here it is, my July wrap up for 2026. We're diving right into it because this month has been pretty fascinating. I spent all of July reading only books written by women, other than when it came to rereading John D. MacDonald, because of course I had to do that. So I want to dive into what I did. This month was Rocket Summer, so I was reading vintage science fiction before 1940s, 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, trying to avoid new wave science fiction when you get into like the 60s. And I did pretty good. I started the month off the way I should have, which is with Lois McMaster Bujold, because I didn't know there was a new Penric and Desdemona novella. It came out in April. What the heck? Darksight Dare is the newest Penric and Desdemona novella, and it's very good. The whole thing is built around how can you give a sorcerer sight when they don't have eyeballs? Because the way it has always worked is the demons use your senses along with their supernatural senses to enhance things. And to one of the things is like an overlay over a person's vision that allows them to see the spirit world. And how do you overlay over eyeballs that don't work anymore? And it's just really interesting because, Penric has saved the sight of another person. I can't really go into details without spoiling earlier novels. And so this blind cavalryman shows up. It's like, hey, I am hoping you can help me see again. And Penric's like, no, you ain't got no eyeballs. I can't work with that. But there might be another option because, as we know, the bastard always gives you something. It may not be what you want, but you're going to get something. Like he creates the good luck, the bad luck. This guy shows up around the same time that Penric has found a hedge sorceress. And so she's dying because chaos magic's real bad for your body. So if it's a fresh demon, it's just like pooping chaos all through your system and you just die of cancer in like 5 years. I think this one is really good because you get to see someone choose a demon and then kind of see how they work together to create sight in a very interesting way. I love these stories. I mean, this is the 18th, 19th. I've lost count. Doesn't matter. I'll read them all. I adore it. And the best part is it's a much more recent story. It's not taking place early in Penric's life. It's taking place where I want it to, when your boy is older and his life has grown. And man, I was waiting for something like this. It made my heart so happy. After that, I dove into not Rocket Summer, but science fiction written by women, because that's all I was going to read for the month. And I read Dreamsnake by Vonda McIntyre. One of the reasons I read this was I wanted to read another Triple Crown winner. This won the Hugo, the Locust, and the Nebula Award. It is a post-apocalyptic science fiction novel about a healer. Her name is Snake. It is a very honorable name to be given as a healer because they use these genetically modified snakes to heal people. We're talking about probably the US post-apocalyptic wasteland. You can think of something like, not Fallout, but something like the movie everyone has seen, The Postman. So think of it kind of like that, where these like little groups of people are all separate. And this has some really interesting stuff, though. She has genetically modified snakes and she's traveling through the wasteland healing people. But very early in, something goes wrong. Someone kills her dream snake. Now, her dream snake is not like the other snakes that she has. One of them, she can tune it in a way that allows it to create a cure in its venom. Like the very first person she cures is a kid with a giant like tumor in his stomach. And the snake essentially creates enzymes, bites the kid, and the enzymes dissolve the tumor. Like it is specifically built to attack the cancer cells. And you're thinking, this is weird because it really feels like a fantasy setting in a post-apocalyptic world until you get to things like genetic manipulation. And there are these like domes in the wasteland that I think were where aliens used to live. And there's these very kind of standoffish, sheltered humans that still have contact with aliens. It's got Dying Earth and Book of the New Sun vibes. Now, I give it more Dying Earth vibes because this came out before Book of the New Sun, but it really feels a lot like Book of the New Sun in the ways that you see in some of the later books. You see this advanced science fiction technology and you're like, this is really weird in this post-apocalyptic setting. There's a very unsettling scene where she's in this place where aliens used to be that The only thing I'll say is it reminds me of the scenes from Book of the New Sun with the guy with two heads. So I won't expand upon it from there, but it's that same kind of weird, unsettling feeling, but with more helplessness, which, when we're talking about Severian, your boy is talking about himself, so he's never describing himself as helpless. But in this one, Snake is helpless in that situation, and it's really interesting. It's really cool to see. The story's tragic. I really like it. It started off a little slow for me, but once you kind of get steeped in the world, it's a really good book. I'm really happy I read it, and I can see why it won a Triple Crown. It was on the cutting edge of science fiction and fantasy when it was written, and I think it still holds up really well today. After that, I had to take a quick break and read Darker Than Amber by John D. MacDonald, because I got to keep reading the McGee series. This book had like a glow up. I thought it was one of the weaker books. It still is, but I think that the damsel in distress in this one has the most nuance of any of them, and her story just becomes like a tragedy in a way that I had forgotten from the first two times I read it. I just think it's really good. I'm not going to go any further into it and just say, go read the McGee series. What are you doing? If you're watching my videos, why have you not started reading it? It's all I talk about. Then I dipped into my first novel for the Rocket Summer project, and this is The Sword of Rian by Lee Brackett. It's from 1949, and yes, I'm saying I skipped the pre-30s, but I didn't. I forgot about that until just now because I only read short fiction. So we'll get back to Lee Brackett in a minute. I read two short stories from C.L. Moore. The first one is the first Northwest Smith story, and it's all right. It's a very proto-space opera. You've got a Han Solo type roguish character. He gets seduced by what is probably a Gorgon, and that's a weird story. I think it's good. It just was like a little slow, and then I tried listening to the second Northwest Smith story, but the narrator was awful, so I had to give up on it. The really outstanding C.L. Moore story is No Woman Born. This is proto-cyberpunk and body horror in this really interesting story about this beautiful woman who is on the thing that will eventually be television. She's talking about TV, and this is from 1944. It was originally published in Astounding Science Fiction. The story is about her getting burned alive in a fire, but they managed to salvage her brain and put it in a robot body. Don't think she agreed to that, and you kind of hear a little bit of that as you're going through the story, because a big emphasis on this is like women's autonomy and consent, and the story gets really interesting really fast. It starts off with a bang and never slows down. It's not fast-paced. It's just beautifully written, and you're experiencing this woman being trapped in this robot's body, and it making her not human anymore because she has gone beyond humanity. It's probably the earliest piece of transhumanist fiction I've ever read, so that's really cool. This was a highlight of the month. The more I think about that story, the more I want to reread it, and the more it just like haunts me. I think it's really good. So if you want a quick read out of everything I read this month, go check out No Woman Born by C.L. Moore. It's a really good short story. Now back to The Sword of Rian by Lee Brackett, published in 1949. I didn't like it. I think that it is way too pulpy for me, which sounds impossible. How would I not like a pulpy story? But I think that it is, I don't know, just weird. It's very John Carter of Mars. The story is about a kind of weaselly trader who's always hustling, and he is shown the Sword of Rian, which was the sword wielded by a god early in Martian history, and then he gets like a hold of the sword and then somehow travels back in time and gets possessed by the god to try to right the wrongs of the things he had done and, change the future, and he gets enslaved, and it's like very run-of-the-mill pulp fantasy, but in like this sword and planet story. I love Lee Brackett. I didn't love this. Other people like it more than I did, so I'm not going to tell people to not read it, but I didn't have a very good time with it, so I'm going to move on before I poop on it any more than I already have. After that, I read Judge Me Not by John D. MacDonald. This isn't a McGee reread, but also I needed something to read with my eyeballs that wasn't a short story, because it was either short fiction or a John D. MacDonald blog I've been obsessed with, and I needed to break that cycle and read something before bed because I was staying up too late. Well, I broke the cycle by staying up even later and reading the book in 2 nights. Judge Me Not is really cool. So it is about a guy who's just kind of been coasting along. He's never been really invested in what he's been doing, but he works with a like city planner or like a city commissioner, this guy who is brought in by like a mayor, and they fix the problems with the city. They audit what's going on, like who's skimming money off the top, where is government being inefficient, stuff like that. And he's the troubleshooter for that commissioner. Well, he's been told to back off because the guy that's been running this upstate New York town, which, a little context, John D. McDonald spent most of his early life in upstate New York. He worked in a job kind of like this for a very short amount of time before he quit, probably because he saw a bunch of crooked stuff. I don't know. That's my guess. So this troubleshooter has kind of been told to back off, and he's been told to back off by the mayor's wife, who he's been sleeping with. I'm just gonna spoil this very early part because before I got to it, I was like, this is good. It's written very well. Like, John D. McDonald is such a great writer when we're talking about story structure and just the word usage, prose, whatever you want to call it. His dialogue is great. There is exposition in a lot of the dialogue in this book, and I don't care because the dialogue is so good. I just wanted to hear these people talk. So the spoiler is the mayor's wife comes back after they've kind of broken this off, and she's like, I got a secret. I got to tell you. It's really important. She comes out to his lakeside cabin. These guys show up, manhandle him, force alcohol down his system, like down his throat, and knock him out. He wakes up. She's dead in the cabin with him, and he's going to get framed. Well, he manages to hide the body before some reporters show up on some hot tip where they're going to they thought they were going to catch him with the mayor's wife or something, but she's not there. Her car's not there. So the story goes from there. He has to find out who did it. He has to find out why. And before that stuff happens, you meet the antagonist, and he is a pretty unsettling antagonist. Now, I will say, like a lot of John D. McDonald, the ending is competent. Everything gets kind of tied up in an interesting way, but like the build up and the climax is good. Then it kind of peters out really fast. But Judge Me Not's a real good book. I was surprised. And it's only his 4th book he had published, 3rd book. So it's really impressive for that early in his novel writing career. After that, I read Pale Horse, Pale Rider by Catherine Ann Porter. I made a video about it. It's going to come out either before or after this. I don't know. You'll see it on my channel. She won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction. These are 3 short novels. 2 of them take place in Texas. 1 takes place in Colorado. There's a little bit of autobiographical vibes to these stories. The first one is a coming of age story where you see these little vignettes of this girl as she grows into a woman. And part of that story is this like kind of realizing adults suck. You've been told all these stories throughout your childhood by family members about, oh yeah, your cousin, blah, blah, blah. He's just handsome. He really has his stuff together. He knows what he's doing. And then when you grow up and you realize they suck, like they're stupid. It's that kind of thing with the first story. And the second story is like very Cormac McCarthy in the nihilism that you see in it. It's really good. I don't want to spoil anything about it. It just takes place on a farm, and the stranger shows up, and he really helps this farm grow and this family thrive. And then, another stranger shows up, and not everything was what it seemed. And the last one, Pale Horse, Pale Rider, that it's named after, it's very good. It takes place during the Spanish influenza. And it's about a pandemic killing a bunch of people, and it's real sad and beautifully written. So I highly recommend that. And now let's move on. The next thing I read was Sargasso of Space by Andre Norton. It's okay. It's like barely a step above. I was willing to finish it. There were things I liked. It's a space opera from the 1950s. Andre Norton has been barely hit, almost always miss for me. This follows a guy as he graduates from the tech school for becoming like a navigator or serving on a spaceship. And he gets stuck with like a spaceship with a bad contract, and everyone's like, you were already poor. Now you're going to be more poor, dummy. You're stuck with these people. And they get to their planet that they have claims on. Come to find out there's ancient archaeological stuff there that was from aliens that had populated the universe before humanity had branched out. And not everything is what it seems. And it's got some good pulp science fiction going on in it, but I was like bored to death for half of the story. My mind wandered constantly while I was reading it. It could not keep me locked in. I was not invested in anyone in the story. I tried really hard to care about the main character, but I just couldn't. And so it's all right. I don't know what Andre Norton I would recommend beyond it, because I tried to reread Witchworld and I couldn't stand it. So maybe Andre Norton's just not for me. This does lean kind of YA. So do with that what you will. Because that book was a stinker, I dipped right back into the John D. MacDonald well. I reread for the third time One Fearful Yellow Eye, book whatever in the McGee series, doesn't really matter. I think it's 7 or 8. It's fantastic. I think it's one of the better ones. The first couple times I read it, I thought, this is good, but it doesn't really feel like McGee. But this last time I went through it, I was taking notes. So much of it is quotable. There's just bangers. Like John D. MacDonald has straight bars throughout this whole thing. I think it's some of the best writing that he has in the McGee series. And you really start to see that McGee can't let things go. He is addicted to the hunt, the pursuit, to the point that it is detrimental to his well-being, and he knows it. And the people around him know it. And you really start to realize that he can't keep relationships. He can't function as a person without this drive that will kill him. It's so good. I really liked this story because it takes place in Chicago in the winter, and it's like antithetical to the Florida vibes that you get from most McGee stories. And to just put so much into this book that I didn't notice the first 2 times I read it, it's just amazing. I love being rewarded by rereading a book. Just those little nuggets that the author puts in there for people. Maybe I would have noticed it the first time if I was less of a dummy. I don't know, or I paid attention, or, maybe it's a skill issue. But after this third read, I'm just locked in again. I'm more addicted to John D. MacDonald's writing in the Travis McGee series than I was before. So I guess that's a good thing. Maybe. After that, we had to get into the 1960s. So I read Rocannon's World by Ursula K. Le Guin. I love Earthsea. I love The Left Hand of Darkness. So I thought, this won't hold up as well as my favorite Le Guin novel, The Lathe of Heaven, but it's got to be good. And it is. It's not as good as her other stuff, which is obvious because, this was her debut novel. I find it really weird when other people talk about this book and are like, it's just not as good as her other stuff. It's like, I got to compare it to the stuff she wrote 10 years later. It's like, well, the stuff she wrote 10 or 20 years later is going to be way better. If you peak with your debut novel, it's cool if you stay employed after the fact writing books, but that would kind of suck. There is a lot of fantasy in the science fiction story. The story is about a archaeologist, engineer, whatever he is. He goes to the planet because he realized that, or I think he's an anthropologist. That's what the word is that I was looking for. He goes to the planet because they're going to go back after it's kind of been locked away for a long time because of some stuff that happened, because they're not supposed to mess with the races of people that live on the planet more than they have to. And really, it's all developing these primitive planets in order to prep for a intergalactic war. And he shows up. Things happen, figure out there's rebels on the planet that don't like what this organization is doing in prepping for this intergalactic war. And he has to figure out a way to get a hold of an Ansible, which is a way to communicate at faster than light speed throughout the universe, so that he can tell someone what's happening, because everyone else that came with him is dead and his ship is gone. And as soon as the ship is blown up, you are dropped into a fantasy world. And it's really cool. There's like big cats that fly. It's awesome. And just all sorts of really interesting stuff. There's a lot of like primitive superstition going on. And it's really cool to see this technologically advanced outsider have to deal with this very low fantasy world. And then the little bits and bobs of science fiction throughout it are really cool. Some people didn't like that. I thought it was awesome. I'm a big fan of genres bleeding together. But yeah, Rocannon's World's pretty good. Like it's a good read. There's no reason to avoid it, especially if you already like Le Guin's other stuff. I think she kind of regretted writing it because it had too much fantasy, but I think that's a feature, not a bug, my friend. Let's keep going. Only got a few left. By a few left, I meant one. I read The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. I was really looking forward to this. It has won a Triple Crown as well. I'm of two minds with this book. The first being, wow, it starts off as a banger. And the other half being, I didn't care and I wanted it to be over. Let's break down everything that goes on in this. I can see why people love this book, but the only thing I kept thinking about after about 30% of the way through was the word cloying, which means super rich or super sweet to the point that you no longer want to consume it. The writing was cloying, and it was cloying because it had a message that it wanted to give you, and it gave too much. And it was like, hey, this is what I'm talking about. This is the thing. You get it? Do you get it? Oh, look, next pass. Do you get it? And it started to wear on me. And the other problem I had with the book, we will get to the good stuff, I promise, is that the characters felt one-dimensional. They didn't start that way. The first 15, 20% of this book is rock solid. Everything about it is perfect. It just starts at a ripping pace, and while the action slows down, the quality and the plotting don't. And I just really liked it. It fell apart for me about halfway through. And one of the things I noticed was the characters were just like shadows, these one-dimensional things that were just a way to bounce ideas off of the main character. Elma is awesome. She's the main character. Oh, I should explain what this is about. This is a alternate history story where a meteor wipes out Washington, D.C. in like 1951 and creates an extinction event where these scientists are like, we need to get off this planet. This isn't going to last. The ocean is literally going to boil. We need to go somewhere in order for humanity to survive. And so the space race kicks off a decade early, but it kicks off with humanity working together. And it's really cool because when the world is all dedicated to a single thing, it's crazy how fast things can get done. And so you see this very rapid development of space technology in this book, which is great. I am a very big space nerd when it comes to the early space program stuff. So that's really cool to see. And the big thing about this is the main character. She's a woman. She's a computer. She's one of the people that does all the advanced math. She has a PhD in physics and a PhD in mathematics. And of course, she's just treated like a number cruncher that doesn't have any real value beyond that because we're talking about a woman in 1952. So the story is really interesting because she wants to be an astronaut and they don't want her to be an astronaut. They don't want any women to be an astronaut. They're like, that's stupid. Why would a woman be an astronaut? And she's like, you're trying to make a colony in space, dummy. Where are the other humans going to come from once we're in space? And they just blow her off, and she won't take no for an answer. She's already a very skilled pilot. She flew in World War II. Her story is awesome. And the way this book tackles mental health is great. There's so many things that it does really well, and then it just keeps beating you over the head with it. And that's my problem. Like the one-dimensional characters, there is a woman in here. The only thing you learn about her is she's Taiwanese, good at chess and math. I don't remember anything else about her because I don't think there is anything else about her. Like, she's in conversations. There's sometimes a one-on-one where she's like the main subject of the conversation, but even then, she just feels like air. And what I noticed was there's a couple early in the book. They're like the first people that Elma and her husband run into after the meteorite has hit. They're great. There's a lot of nuance to them. You can really feel them developing as characters, and then halfway through, they're just backdrops, and I don't understand, like, what happened? Where did they go? Like, they're there, but they're not. There's no more growth for them. It's just really weird. It just feels like everything flattens out the more the plot develops and the more Elma gets into what she's wanting to do. Everything else just kind of dims. She's great. Her husband is great. I just think that some stuff is like way too on the nose. It's way too like winking at the audience about, see what I'm doing with this? And like, I'm being really critical of it, but the book is a fun ride. I give it a way higher review than I would have otherwise, just because it grabs you and doesn't let go. And I think that that is a skill that more authors need. And it's really cool to see this alternate history developing the space program, but stuff just was feeling flat toward the end. And that's it for what I read this month. As you can tell, other than John D. MacDonald, it was all women. It was a really fun thing to do. I'm not saying I'm going to do it every year because holy crap, Rocket Summer was really hard to find a bunch of stuff written only by women, but I'm glad I did it. It really gave me a change in pace and allowed me to just shift out of my lane, but kind of stay in my little comfort zone. So that was good. And when it comes to my plans for August, even though August is pretty much already here, I am thinking about making a Garbaugust video to kind of explain what I'm going to do. But Garbaugust, we read garbage. We read movie tie-ins. We read men's adventure fiction, just the junk, the stuff that other people think is crap and shouldn't be read. We're going to read the good ones, the little hidden gems. Might run into some stinkers too, but I think these books have merit. Like, people poo-poo men's adventure fiction, and then I read 3 Digger novels last August, and they're wonderful. They're some of the best mysteries I've ever read. Digger as a character is just really cool and fun to read, and it's fun to be in his head. And, you know, I never would have read that if I wasn't willing to take a risk on books that other people consider crap. Garb August has been the month that I have found the most things that I like in the last few years. Like, I read John D. MacDonald in Garb August 2 years ago, just as like I know he's not garbage, but I'm going to throw him in here because I'm reading other stuff that's like the junkier versions of his writing. And, you know, he is my favorite writer of all time now. So Warren Murphy's pretty high up there too. I haven't read any of his like really crazy stuff, but the Digger series is great. I'm going to read the Trace novels this month. I might read all of them. Well, I think there's too many to do that, but I'm going to try. I'll probably read some superhero fiction if I can find some stuff I'm interested in. I was going to read some of the newer Batman stuff that's like based on Batman 89, but the stories just sound stupid, and I've heard they're not worth it. So I'll find something else. Let me know what kind of garbage I should read in August. Hopefully I make a Garb August video, but if not, well, you know where we're going with this. Let me know in the comments what you read in July. Did you participate in Rocket Summer? And if not, why? Do you just hate science fiction? Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.